Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week. So keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. Also, the ThunderCast is now on Blue Sky. You know, if you're not tuned into the Blue Sky Network, that's basically a Twitter alternative, like a new social media platform that has launched. It's pretty cool. It's a lot like Twitter, so check it out and follow us over there on Blue Sky. Almost the same handle. We couldn't have the underscore pod, so I think we're just at the ThunderCast over there. But anyway, logo's the same. You'll find us. Big week. It is 75 week, and there is nothing more important to the football season at Marshall University and Huntington, West Virginia than 75 week. One of the greatest traditions in all of college football goes down right in our hometown, and it is awesome every single year. And I truly feel like once a year, for one day a year, everybody is a Herd fan. You know, even the teams that hate us kind of don't hate us as much on 75 week. This year, the victim is Coastal Carolina, and we all know that something weird always happens in 75 week, and for Herd fans, you know what I mean by that. So let's dive into this ComAssistKY.com Marshall football preview right after this word from Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
That's right. Coastal Carolina. Boy, oh boy, do we owe them one. I'd like to start out with that. We owe them one.
Two.
Yes, we do owe them two, but I mean, like, God, we owe them one. Damn it. I'm glad we drew them for 75 week this year because this is the East Division team that has been the thorn in our side for a couple of years. They have kept us out of a Sun Belt Conference championship game once already, and they kind of put it to us in pretty convincing fashion in Conway last year. And boy, oh boy, it's time for the turntables. The game, 11-16, a 1 p.m. kick. We mentioned it in the normal weekly show. This is your opportunity to double dip some Herd athletics. You've got a 1 p.m. kick for football and then an evening tip for basketball, so you can walk right across the west lot and into the cam and check out some hoops. Game's going to be on ESPN+, but, man, if you are any possible way you can get to the game, get to the game. Not because it's 75 week, not because the Herd is still in the hunt for the East Division Championship, not because they're on a 3-game win streak, not because it's the final game potentially in Joan C. Edwards Stadium for several great players, including the seniors that walked 2 weeks ago. Go because the Herd is at home. Go because the Herd is undefeated at home. And for all the talk of we always used to win, we're winning at home right now. And it's your opportunity to see them one more time and try to complete the cycle of home games undefeated. This is going to be a good one, man. It's going to be a good one. So let's dig into this ComAssistKY.com Marshall football preview. ComAssist, we coach, you grow. ESPN loves the Herd in this one, Russ. 70.6% chance to win. That's down a little bit. I thought it was up around 80% earlier. Something's happening. I don't know. Herd, according to ESPN, is -8.5. I saw the Circa Sports was minus like 10 to start. Over under 56.5. Did you look at a different line?
Yeah, FanDuel, and it is now down to that 8.5, 56.5, same thing. It opened, I think, around 9 and 55, and it's just moved a little bit. And of course, I saw what you saw. It opened up 10 on that other at 55, I think it was.
Yeah. So anyway, you look at it, the Herd is somewhere around a touchdown and a couple of points favorite.
33-24-ish.
Okay.
32-23-ish.
Sounds good. Third all-time meeting between the Herd and Coastal Carolina. Coastal owns a 2-0 edge. Marshall has never beaten the Chanticleers. I like saying their name wrong. For all the names we like to say right, I love saying I like saying the Shants. But anyway,
they shan't have a good weekend
well, let's hope.
coming up. So
I mean, we've won football games on their field, just not against them, as odd as that sounds. If you will remember, that was Coach Huff's first career bowl victory as a head coach. It was the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Anyway, I got 3 big questions for you, Russ. You ready to answer them?
I am.
Number 1, will A.J. Turner be back to full strength, you think, for this one?
Don't know. Hope so, but he came back in and looked pretty good in limited action down at Southern Miss. But on that pass reception that he had, came up limping a little bit and did not come back in the game, which I agree with not putting him back in the game, because why would you?
Why?
So, yeah. So hopefully he just got a little bit of a bruise or a slight little aggravation. But as we recorded real late Sunday night the previous week, we said that we hadn't heard anything from Coach Huff because his press conference wasn't there. But then when I dug into it a little bit in the post game, Coach Huff said in that ULM game, he could have came back in that game. So I don't think that it is anything that will keep him out. Full strength is where I can't really answer that question. But I will say that an 80% A.J. Turner is better than a lot of people's 100%. So I'm going to say that he comes in and he does make an impact in this game. Just can't answer if he's going to be at 100%.
Well, obviously nobody's at 100% at this point in the season. I think what we deduce from that is, will he be effective enough that we'd seen in the first 2/3 of the season, rather than what we saw against ULM and in this past week. Number 2, big question is, will Mike Green and this Herd defense be able to effectively get to Ethan Vasco? He's only been sacked 5 times all season. And boy, what a team to break that trend. Nobody like Money Mike and the Herd defense to get it done. What do you think?
Well, so I have them as being sacked 7 times.
ESPN says 5 for Vasco.
5 for Vasco, 7 on the team, because Noah Kim has come in for Vasco quite a bit here lately. So that's under 1 a game. That's not even 4/5 of a sack a game that they're giving up. It's 0.78, actually. They haven't gone up against this defense.
Correct.
They haven't gone up against Mike Green. I bet Ohio State is putting up some silly numbers and everything, and Mike Green made that guy look like an idiot. I think that, yes, we can get back there. And when we get to the keys to the victory, I'll elaborate on that just a little bit more.
So the third big question is really not a concrete answer. It's more of a prediction.
Okay.
75 week, as I mentioned when we opened, there's always a something play that happens, you know, and you can talk about it in the Sun Belt era. A couple of years ago, it was the block punt that was the differentiator against the Appalachia State that ultimately propelled the Herd to victory in that one. A few years ago in the Conference USA era, you talk about playing Louisiana Tech, and they were like the team to beat in the Conference USA that particular. They were really good. And it was a bad snap on a punt that turned that game around for Marshall. So there's always these things.
How about this? 11 minutes and 14 seconds. We're up 7-0, and that's on 75 week. I mean, come on.
So I just want a prediction. What do you feel like is the thing that happens this year?
Kickoff return for a touchdown.
Ooh, okay.
Ian Foster.
Ooh, okay. All right. I was thinking maybe you'd go a little obscure, like, Turf Monster's going to come up on the guy that, got nothing but field in front of him type thing.
Ian Foster has been a man on a special teams mission all year long. We also talked about in the nickel package for the episode we just finished, recap of Southern Miss, what a great job he did on defense there. The guy's electric. The guy has a nose for the ball. He is the first person almost always on kickoff coverage down there, either making the tackle or making the guy make a move away from him and then getting tackled. He is also very dangerous, kick returning. I say he breaks one and takes it to the house. And, man, it would be great if we started the game off that way. But I'm not going to predict that. I'll predict up until that.
Well, you don't know what based on the coin toss, but you can say it's either
Sure.
going to start the game or start the second half. One of the two. That's
Yeah.
a great time. Either one of those times. There's really never a bad time to have.
And
a
if they
kick
kick it
return
out
for
of if they
touchdown.
kick it out of bounds, he's unable to do so. You
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah.
I'm just I think that he'll take one to the house, and that'll be the thing. Man, put me if we hit that, I'm going to Vegas.
I don't know what the play is going to be. I just know there will be one when I see
Mhm.
it, and everybody in the stadium collectively at the same time will know that's the one. So if there's some Coastal Carolina fans that happen across this show this week, you should know that this is not the week that you want to catch the herd. Even when Marshall is bad, like having in 2016, we were pretty bad. And we still put one on. I think it was Middle Tennessee. I think we beat them pretty handily in 2016. We just don't really. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's special, when you're honoring the 1970 team, but also simultaneously honoring the 1971 team who did not give up and took the field against huge odds, and took beating after beating and all the hard games that led to where we are now. And in 2006, when We Are Marshall came out, and I think about this a lot. Honestly, I don't know what it says about me as a fan, but I think about it a lot, especially when we are interacting with fans that have just not unreal expectations, but they just have lofty expectations. And the line in the movie, McConaughey's character is Jack Lingle. He says, "One day we'll be like every other team, where winning is everything and nothing else matters. And when that happens, that's when we'll honor them." And that's where we are. It's like so many people just feel like it's win or nothing. And I'm okay with that, because that tells me we are there at that point. Our program is there, and that's a good place to be. That's a good place to be. I still like remembering. I still like everything around this weekend. Do you have some initial thoughts on the game before I start talking about players to look out for?
Yeah, I do. Coastal is one of those Jekyll and Hyde teams, and so is Ethan Vasco as quarterback, Jekyll and Hyde, that they have put up tremendous games. Then in Sunbelt, they lost 3 in a row, and Vasco in a couple of those games has been lifted for senior Noah Kim. So it's one of those, which team do you face? But as we go down through these keys to victory, and as we talk about some of the reasons why we have these keys based on the rankings and stats, you're going to find out that they can score, but they are on the lower end on the defensive side. So that's going to open the door for us.
Yeah, when you talk about Coastal Carolina, they're a 5-4 team on the season. They're just 2-3 in conference. So they're fighting this week for bowl eligibility. They'd like to secure that now and not have to push it off another week, because Georgia Southern looms after that, and then, Georgia State. But you mentioned it. They started out hot, 3-game winning streak, but it's Jacksonville State. They put a 50-burger up on them. William and Mary, and then Temple. They lose to Virginia. Then they win in a really high-scoring affair against Old Dominion in Conway. Lose to James Madison. Lose to Louisiana. Lose to a really bad Troy team this year. Yeah. And then they win against App State, and they storm the field. They storm the field against App State. Okay. Whatever you want to do. So now Marshall comes to town, or they come to town to face the herd on 75 week. I don't like their chances, but let's talk about it. We got a quartet of guys to talk about. Of course, Ethan Vasco is the quarterback we're going to feature. 6'3", 220-pound sophomore, 104 out of 190 on the year, 1,551 yards, doing pretty good. 10 touchdowns versus 4 interceptions. Like I mentioned, he's only been sacked 5 times. He's also carried the ball 80 times for another 337 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's a pretty decent all-around quarterback. But if they start to struggle, you're right, you'll see another quarterback. Running back Braden Bennett, 6'2", 215. He's a senior, 69 carries, leads the team, 479 yards, leads the team. He's got 10 on the ground, 6.9 yards per carry. Pretty good back. I think, with more opportunities, obviously you would see more impactful yardage. It makes you wonder what you might see here in Huntington this weekend. Then a couple of wide receivers, Jamison Tucker and Cameron Wright. Tucker, 6'2", 190. He's a junior. Cameron Wright, 6'4", 210. He's a junior. Tucker, 24 receptions, leads the team, 431 yards, leads the team, 5 touchdowns through the air, good for 18 yards per reception. Wright has just 18 catches for 303 yards and a couple of touchdowns, but 16.8 yards per reception. So they get some chunk yardage through the air. Vasco's 1,500 yards kind of says that a little bit. It's the rankings to where they match up with the herd. That's really what it is. So let me dive into that real quick. Coastal's offense averages 32 points per game. That's good for 39th in the country. Total offense and passing and rushing offense, though, it's like, man, your point totals is kind of higher based on what your rankings are offensively. So it's kind of wild. So you got to think there's some defensive scores that go into that or something that goes into that, right? It's not all coming from the offense. 77th in total offense, 382 yards a game. 86th in pass offense, 206 yards a game. And 49th in rush offense, 176 yards per game. How does that match up against the Herd defense? Well, the Herd's defense is 60th in points allowed with 23, just over 23 points allowed. 75th in total defense. And then, boy, if that's not fitting for this week, I don't know what is. There's that number, and it pops up right in total defense for the Herd. 75th in the country this week, 374 yards allowed. Number 34 in pass defense with 194, almost 195. And 104 in rush defense, 179.7 yards. Thoughts on this Shantz offense versus the Herd defense?
Well, again, it's who shows up for Vasco. And I don't want to give away my keys, so I'll just say if you can get to him, it's not a given that they are going to just roll over, because Noah Kim came in and has really had some impressive games to try to get him back into some things. They are balanced with the run and the pass, like you mentioned, 1,800, I think, through the air and 15 some on the ground. So one of those like 53, 47, 52, 48 percentage wise. It's pretty daggone balanced. So they've got some weapons. They also have been getting a lot of chunk plays. Mm-hmm. You see 69, 65, 53, 48. And we've seen that the last few games. So they can get scoring, 10 on the ground from Bennett, 4 through the air by their wide receiver that you just mentioned. They have some scoring weapons.
Well, yeah, they're not going to just lay down and die, right? That's what I'm saying. It's like offensively, the numbers, the rankings don't jump off the page at you, but being 39th in points per game, it's like, all right, well, you're finding some way to score. How the hell are you doing it? Because it's not always coming through the on the offensive side of the ball.
But however, let's go to their schedule real quick without running through the whole thing. In their losses, they've got 24 against UVA, 7 against James Madison, 24 against UL, 24 against Troy, 3 games of 24 and 1 of only 7. And it's just not, it just doesn't seem like that it's there. They got 55 against an FCS team, and then they put 45 up against ODU before ODU had, if I'm not mistaken, their settled on now quarterback that they have. It just seems like the scoring does not match the games. When you look and you say 1,551 yards by Vasco, but you start looking, he had one game with like 326, and then a bunch of games like Braxton that wasn't even 200. Right. So it's like 1,551 jumps out at you, but you're looking, hey man, they played 9 games.
Sure.
He's not throwing for 200 a game.
No. And I tell you what, it's when they've played a good defense that those points start to plummet, right? James Madison's a good defense. He put up 7. Yeah. Mm-hmm. App State, we know, is a notch or 2 down this year, and they put up 38, and then in losses against a not so great Troy team, you only get 24. Yeah. Louisiana's a good team. Yeah. Louisiana's good, and they put up 24 against them as well. So, you look like you're good for 3 scores, 3 touchdowns, maybe against a good defense. And Marshall's a better than good defense. So let's talk about this Coastal Carolina defense in this ComAssist KY Marshall football preview. It's going to start with linebacker Shane Bruce, the 6 foot 235 pound senior. It's senior on this defense that we're featuring, by the way. 66 total tackles for Bruce, 22 of those solo, 1 pass defended, and a fumble recovery. Then it's defensive backs, a couple of safeties and another DB. Tobias Fletcher, safety, 5'10", 170. Senior, 45 tackles, 29 solo. DB Juan Powell, 5'11", 190, senior, 43 tackles, 23 solo, 3 passes defended, 1 fumble recovery, and that was a scoop and score. And then safety AJ Williams, 6'1", 195, he's a senior. 35 total tackles, 26 of those are solo. 1 pass defended, an interception, and 2 forced fumbles for Mr. Williams. The leading sacker on this Coastal Carolina defense is linebacker Cleve Lubin. He's got 6, so roughly less than half of what Mike Green alone has. So they don't do a outstanding job of getting to the quarterback. Impact plays, they do have 19 total sacks, so you do the math, about 2 a game. 25 passes defended, 6 INTs, 1 of those was a pick 6, 8 forced fumbles, 8 fumble recoveries, and 3 scoop and scores. So be aware of that. 3 scoop and scores. So let's talk about how this Coastal Carolina defense is going to match up against this Herd offense rankings-wise.
You mentioned linebacker Cleve Lubin, and he was the guy that in a full game had slightly better stats than Mike Green's half a game and was the defensive player of the week for the Sun Belt last week. Let's talk about that week. 10 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. So 3 of his 6 came last week. Not taking anything away from the guy at all, but 3 of them came last week. He can play.
Yeah, he can play, but
that's a major game. But again, 3 of them came last week, and the rest of the season.
Against a very pass-heavy offense, right?
Yeah,
we know about App State and what they do, and they were behind, so they had to pass. So we're not taking it, we're just giving context, right?
Sure.
You don't get 3 sacks by accident. You're doing something right. Anyway, let's talk about this Coastal defense and their rankings, how it goes up against the Herd offense. Coastal Carolina's points allowed, 31.4. That's 106th in the country.
Yeah.
Total defense, 113th in the country, allowing 422 yards to opposing offenses. They are number 67 in pass defense, allowing 218.4 yards per game. 121st rush defense, allowing over 200 yards a game at nearly 204. So for all those Herd fans that think Marshall's run defense is not living up to the hype this year, and they are down, I will say this, they are worse. Coastal Carolina is worse. Herd's offensive rankings, 48th in scoring with 30.6 points per game, 62nd in total offense with 398, 113th in pass offense, 179 yards a game, and number 11 in rush offense, 218.9 yards per game. Yet again, Russ, this might be the 3rd consecutive game where the glaring mismatch is Marshall's rush offense versus the opponent's rush defense. This is uncanny. 3 straight games, or this will be the 3rd game that it's just been a glaring mismatch, and Marshall's got to take advantage. Before I talk about, I'll just do it. Their kicker, Cade Hensley, 5'10", 190, junior, 11 of 13 on field goals with a long of 49, 36 out of 36 on extra points. Back to the defense and the Herd offense. What are you thinking about this? What's piquing your interest?
It's the points that they give up, and you can look even against some games that they won, 45-37 against ODU. They've given up a lot of points all year long. Their rush defense is not good. There's several other things that I can talk about here with stats and rankings that just show them not to be that good. We have, for instance, we have 65 tackles for loss, and Mike Green's doing a great job, but so is everybody, and that puts us 14th in the nation. Coastal has only gotten 37, and they're 122nd in the nation.
Yeah.
So you're talking about they give up a lot on 3rd down. They give up a lot. Well, here, let me just tell you because I've got it here. On third down, they are. Oh, I'm not going to get it. I'm sorry. I've got it here somewhere. I don't know, but just know that their third down percentage is not that good. Here it is. Here it is. 40 of 111, 36% on third down. That's 107th in the country. Marshall's D on third down is fifth in the country. So
Holy crap.
that's a mismatch. But then they're on third down. Their offense, 57 out of 129, 44.2%, 109th in the country is their D. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah, they have a hard time getting off the field, and they do not do a good job of extending drive. Yet somehow they score points.
They score points, and if you look, they've got a lot of big chunk plays, but they have really been helped out on the defensive side of the ball as well with scores.
Yes.
To kind of overinflate some of that stuff. But they've got some players on defense. But as a team, the stats just are not there to show it be a good against scoring and against yardage and definitely against the run. They're just not that big on defense. So that kind of goes into our keys if you want to go straight.
Even if you want to get into a shootout with this team, I think you come out ahead, right? Yeah. Even if Marshall's they're not a very dangerous pass offense. They can be.
They can.
But we are a far more dangerous rush offense. Yeah. And to me, that's the kind of shootout I'll get in that shootout, because we can control the clock in that type of shoot. And I know that's counterintuitive. In a shootout, you're thinking high scoring, quick scores, lots of scores, time taken forever. I would be happy if I saw a drive like Army had the last week. It lasted nearly a quarter.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
74 minutes.
But anyway, yes, let's get into keys to victory. What's your number one key to victory for the Herd this week?
Got to win the red zone battle. We just went 6 for 9 against one of the worst red zone teams. But listen to this. Marshall red zone offense, 77.8%, 109th in the country. But you go up against Coastal's red zone defense is 109th in the country.
Something's got to give.
Yeah. Coastal's red zone offense is tied for 22nd in the country, and Marshall's red zone defense is 57th. So we need to do a better job of not taking a field goal when we could have got a touchdown, not missing a field goal, and not overthrowing a wide receiver that was wide open for a touchdown. We have got to do a better job than we did against Southern Miss so we can accumulate those points, because you start leaving points off, that lets a high-scoring Coastal team stay in a game.
Yeah, it just lets a team that finds a way to put points up stay in a freaking game. And for me, the number one key to victory is pretty simple. It's continue the formula that's been working. You run the damn football and you play sound defense and you win the game. It's worked for the last 3 weeks. It's worked since the letdown at Georgia Southern. After that game, the formula has been effectively run the football, play sound defense, hit the big pass play. You've seen it. You've seen the long pass play to Fitz, the long pass play to Toby Payne a couple of times. It's a good formula. It works. And why get cute and creative if you don't have to? If they can't stop your run, why the hell would you ever pass? I know it sounds simple, but it ain't that simple. I'm just saying, continue the formula, man. It's working. What's your number two key to victory?
Run the ball, just like you just said. And we have to exploit that mismatch here on the rankings. I'm going to go over it one more time. Marshall's rushing offense is 218.9 yards, good for 11th in the country, up there with some really, really good teams. Coastal's rush defense, they're giving up 203.9 for 121st out of 133 in the country. Run the ball, just like you said.
This is all we've moved up in the rankings, and AJ Turner has been dinged up. And if that doesn't tell you how deep this room is and how effective they can be, it's not one guy, and we'll see what happens. Run the football. Number 2 key to victory for me is this week. It's continue to create those turnovers. You're talking about a really good offensive team in the red zone. Well, how do you keep them from being that? You create a turnover in the red zone, or you create a turnover before they get into the red zone, right? It made those mistakes that Marshall had against Southern Miss far more palatable by creating a lot of turnovers. So you keep that going, you cruise to victory. Just cruise to victory. Number 3, what's your third key to victory?
You got to get to the quarterback and disrupt this coastal offense. And I'm not just talking sacks, although those do help. I'm talking about interceptions. I'm talking about tip balls, pass defended. Listen to this. In 3 losses in a row in those Sun Belt conference games, three games in a row, their opponents had 0 sacks, 7 pass deflections, and 2 interceptions in that first game, James Madison. Then the next 2 games, 2 sacks and 6 pass deflections. So they have been getting a lot of pass deflections against this guy, rattling him, making him ineffective to where Noah Kim has to come in. I think that one game where he came out, he was 3 for 10. Mm-hmm. And again, there were no interceptions, but they were just getting to the quarterback. They were getting to the receivers and preventing them from getting them out of the rhythm, throwing them off of their passing game. And when you do that, it makes them go to their running game, and they're just not as good as scoring wise as they are. They are better scoring wise, but putting up less yards on the ground.
And you know what? You don't have to get the sack to be effective. Like
that's
some
what
guys,
I'm saying.
Right? Some guys just aren't good on the move.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know, maybe Vasco's one of those guys whose accuracy just falls off a cliff when he has to create something, when he has to get off, when he's pushed off his spot, as you like to say. I think that's a good point. Mike Green, Ishmael, even JJ, for crying out loud, they can get to these guys. Chris Thomas, these guys can create some freaking havoc in the middle, and all it takes is one little sliver to get a guy coming through, and then it's, you know, who knows what happens.
You're right there with what I was saying, and I didn't enunciate it either. But the not just sacks, I don't mean just the pass deflections, but you mentioned QB hurries. And yes, it is huge on somebody having to throw on the run, but think of it like this. When you get back there and he has to move out of the pocket and roll around, what's happened to your routes? They've broken down. You know, and you are not throwing to your intended, your number 1 is gone. Your number 2 may be gone, maybe even your number 3, and everyone is running a secondary route at that point because the play's been blown up. So if we can get some QB hurries on this guy, it has shown that their losses, they have drastically underperformed at QB, and that is why I think if we can disrupt them in their passing game, we'll win this game.
Yeah, I tend to agree as well. My number 3 key to victory for Marshall is, being that it's 75 week. I think this is the game to where you have to win that 5th quarter, what I call it, which is that gap of the last half of the 2nd quarter and the first half of the 3rd quarter. So you get 15 minutes of game time, and it's that hidden 15 minutes of play that's not a traditional quarter that can win or lose a game, but it can also just put one way out of reach. If you get that quick score or 10 points right before the end of half and then come right out and put 10 more up on the board, and all of a sudden it's bam, how the hell did this 20 spot get put on us, and what happened? So I think you win that, on top of doing what you got to do. If you can really dominate that last half of the 2nd quarter, first half of the 3rd quarter, boy, that's a morale killer. I mean, that is an absolute killer and a momentum stealer if you're able to do that. I think that'll be big. What's your number 4 if you got one?
I do. You've got to stop Braden Bennett and do not let him cook like Hardy did from ULM a couple of weeks ago. Now, listen, the guy's got 12 touchdowns, 10 on the ground and 2 receiving out of the backfield. He's only played in 7 games. Listen to his carries: 11, 5, 9, 12, 13, 10, 9. But the guy's average 5.5, 7.4, 5.3, 3.8, 10.2, 6.9, 9.8, and he's finding the end zone. So you cannot let him beat us like that. You've got to keep him out of the end zone. He is by far their biggest scoring threat. So if you do that,
yeah, having a very eerily similar type season to what AJ Turner was having at the beginning.
just
Very few
much
carries.
lower yards. So
Well, right. But I mean, low carries, high yardage in some of those games. So he's got flashes, you know. My number 4 out there might be cliche, but this is the game you leave it all out there. You take nothing with you to the locker room. This is the one. It doesn't matter if you're a 1-win team or you're an undefeated team. Doesn't matter. You leave it all out there for this one. And I am not suggesting that our guys don't do that every week.
mm-hmm.
But if there is an extra degree to which you work your ass off to leave an extra drop of blood or sweat on that field, you do it this week. And sometimes that's the differentiator in a game on 75 week. Sometimes it takes the last little bit of what you got, and then the play happens, you know, that separates victory from defeat. Just leave it out there, man. I mean, this is such a unique game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, as a player, you would ever want to leave something in the tank for this one, you know, and all the emotion that goes into it, and it's just different in the building all week, and you know they've got the fountain ceremony, and then they've inevitably got guests around the program that week, and you know I saw on social media earlier that the practice was the player that got the very first scholarship after the That's cool, man. That's cool. And on top of all that, you have, I'm trying not to overreact. I'm trying not to. Damn it, that helmet is beautiful, man. Like I am trying not to say it's the most beautiful helmet I've ever seen, because I've got one back there. You know, I've got a couple of those 75-week helmets, and the oversized 71 MU is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. And you're going to look great when you're out there. And that goes a long way, man. They're going to have a little extra swagger on that one. So.
You got the fountain on the front bumper. Yeah.
Give me a break, man. That's a beautiful helmet.
I have a fifth thing.
Sure.
A fifth key to victory. And I think that it would be best if I use my parting thoughts before we do the MVP and the score and everything. So this is my fifth thing and my parting thoughts. Key to victory is we need to honor the 75 and the young thundering herd, and it's everything that you just said, but it's even more. We think about this game as, you know, it used to be the 75 and you came out all somber and things like that. In the last couple of years, they've kind of put an end to that, because, you know, you come out and you say, hey, get pumped up, and then don't get pumped up and be real somber, and then we're going to get you pumped back up again. This is just as much about the rising from the ashes as it is the tragedy that happened. It may be even more so, because what we're talking about is we were able to continue and move forward, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to honor them. This year, a lot of people haven't noticed it. I've seen a couple notice it. We have not worn any black, not a jersey, not a helmet, not pants at any time this year. And this is going to be the first and possibly the only time this year that we're going to do it. And it seems like that has been by design. You know, it can't be a coincidence, in my opinion, that we've done that. And it just seems like in this game, where it always means more, that this year it's meaning, I don't want to say more than any other, but it's just really dialed in this year. You know what I'm saying? This helmet just is the cherry for me on that. You know, the not wearing any black until this game is the cherry on top of that. Because I'm not suggesting that, oh, well, it didn't mean much in the past. It has. Each and every year it has meant something. But we are going to honor those 75, and we are going to honor rising up from the ashes and still having an athletic program, and doing it the very next year, that young thundering herd, and getting a victory against Xavier with 213 bootleg screen and everything about that. This is the culmination. Every year it's right here, and that is a key to victory in and of itself, because we are so hard to beat on this week.
We are very hard to beat. And I can't say that I've put two and two together. But now that you say that, yeah, we haven't worn a black jersey, and I've never had a problem with incorporating black into the uniform. I wanted it, but I always thought this week should be only time you wear the jersey, especially the jersey. Helmet I can deal with because the helmet design for this week is different than what it would be anyway. But that's. I got a feeling, man. They did I don't know. Are we going to see some metallics? On the uni this year? I don't know, man. I'm not speculating. I'm just saying, that'd be pretty nice. That'd pop pretty good. How about a MVP? Who's your guy this week?
I have. I can't remember which cop-out number I'm on now, but it's a cop-out, and I'm going with the entire Herd offense. And I think that they just come out and they come out clicking. They come out firing. And I don't think that you can point to any one person that stands out and says they were the people. I see it being the entire offense coming out and just dominating during this game.
Well, I'm not going with the whole unit. I'm going to say offensively, it's going to have to be Braylon Braxton because he's going to have to take care of the football in this game first and foremost. You're going to have to just get the ball to your playmakers, let your playmakers make plays for you, right? Just take care of the football primarily. I think, obviously one of the running backs will probably have a monster game, and who knows who it'll be from the receiving corps, maybe a couple of guys, but I think it's got to be Braxton this week, managing that game, taking what's there, and allowing the playmakers to make plays. Defensively, a little bit of a surprise maybe, J.J. Roberts. I think it's going to be J.J. this week. I like him out of the safety spot against this team and what they like to do. I'm also giving him a little bit of the nod because he's a local guy. And I think the local guys get it a little bit more. I think Logan and JJ just get it a little bit more than other guys on the team. Not that they don't get it, but
they've been seeing it a lot longer.
But you grow up here and you get it. So give me JJ on defense. I think he's in for a big game. Wouldn't even surprise me if maybe he found the end zone, caused that fumble, on a safety blitz that somebody else picks up and runs in, maybe. But I think he's going to have a big game. Score prediction. What do you got?
Man, I got 38-21. I almost put them at 24 because they have scored 24 in so many different games and losses. But I got 38-21. I see us coming out and putting up 5 touchdowns. I see us not giving up more than 3. And I see 38-21.
38-13. I'm calling for the Herd to come out offensively and put on a show, but I like this defense to kind of stifle Coastal Carolina. They're on a bit of a hot streak. They got some swag. They got a little bit of Mo coming off of that Southern Miss game, dominating fashion. Mike Green's got some school records to be playing for in front of the home crowd. Little Mo there for that. Love to see that happen. I just think it's going to be a pretty dominating performance for Marshall, giving Coach Huff that victory over Coastal Carolina for the first time. First victory over Coastal in program history. A lot of things can go right on 75 week for the Herd, and I like it to happen in a big way. Do you have anything else you'd like to talk about before we get out of here?
Really quick on the tailgate. Landscaping by Hillcrest. It'll be the final tailgate of the year. It'll be the final tailgate that they're doing for us this year. It's a 1 p.m. start. We should be over there between 8 and 9, and we're going to have a brunch theme that does include a mimosa bar and a Bloody Mary bar, but we're going to have a lot of good breakfast/brunch food over there. We'll be there early, and we have quite a few tickets that will be over there at the tailgate that you're going to see more about on social media. So not just ours, but some more.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention that because by the time this posts, it will be a little closer to game time. We had a local donor reach out and say, hey, I'd like to stop by the tailgate this week, meet up with you guys. We're going to have a lot of tickets. And he wouldn't give me a concrete number because, in their words, I don't know exactly how many. So it was safe to say that there will be several dozen available on top of what we give away and on top of everything else. There are going to be fans of the show, local donors trying to put asses in seats for 75 weeks. So if you're on the fence and you're like, man, I'd like to go, can't swing a ticket, I'd like to take the fam, can't swing a ticket. Hey, come down and tailgate. You might be able to get your hands on how many you need to get the whole family into the game. I can't promise you because first come, first serve and yada, yada, yada. But it could be an opportunity to put a lot of asses in a lot of seats thanks to the generosity of a local donor that will be there at the tailgate. So, Russ, if you got nothing else after that, take us out of here.
Whether you see us at the Jack, whether you see us at the Vet, or whether you see us over at the Joan, honoring the young Thundering Herd, honoring the 75, and hopefully waxing coastal. No matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the ThunderCast. We'll see you next week. Later.